This is my camera. I filmed this one of this guy. He ends up getting assaulted. They had to put up obviously all the gates, but that went over. People forget that went over 100 days. That cost the city so many small businesses closed because of the cover the mess in Atlanta. I don't know if you guys remember, but
that was where the dude got. There was a dude who got shot.
He got shot. And then they created. Yep. I think this was before. This was right before Seattle, but Atlanta created their own autonomous zone. But it was only black. It was only blacks. So like we would go. I was with another reporter. His name is Julio Rosas. He was with Town Hall Media at the time. So we would go report, and we noticed like we would go report. We would be fine. And then we noticed like a white photographer came, and he was like taking pictures of the burnt down Wendy's. And they'd be like, "Hey, where you from?" And I forgot like what media outlet. And the guy goes, "Oh yeah, like no whites in here, bro." And then just starts wailing on him. And then me and Julio are like, "Oh, this is gonna get a little sketchy." And then like on the third day of us being in Atlanta, what actually stopped it. This is actually really sad, bro. Is like that area got crazy, like because it created like an own autonomous zone. The thing about Atlanta is these guys are armed to the teeth. These are gangsters. So they were basically backing up the cops. Anyone there couldn't enter. And on the third day there was a drive-by shooting on the Wendy's. We were there, and there was bullets fired at us when we were there. So we survived the drive-by. But the next day they did another drive-by, and they killed like an 8-year-old girl for the Wendy's. And then the next day is when Georgia came in and were like, okay, we're setting in like National Guard.
Yeah, because that was a good idea.
That was a good. But it was immediately after that, man. I don't know if you remember. The whole Chaz in Seattle.
I remember.
So then we were, we
went there.
We went to Chaz.
And you were in Chaz.
Technically, Chaz was like my very first time then working with my boss. And my boss at that time was a guy named Richie McGinnis. So it was my first time like working with him, because at the previous times I've been covering these riots a little bit just by myself, but now they sent in Richie with me because they wanted us to be a team to watch each other's back. And Richie comes out with one of the best tactics, bro. And this came out later in the Rittenhouse trial because Richie had to testify nationally. And I'll break down.
What do you mean tactics?
So let me explain. So basically, bro, during this time, one thing that we learned early on, because remember they started off in D.C., then it led us to Atlanta, then in Seattle. But one thing we learned early on was that the Black Lives Matter protesters would assault any media member. So basically, like on the first night, one thing I know, obviously the Fox News thing happened, but the next day there was another riot in DC, and I went out there and I noticed that there was like, maybe like regular white guys, photographers for like Washington Post, whatever, would be taking pictures. Either like a Black Lives Matter protester would come and like smash the cameras and like stomp them out, like assault them. So I would basically, because I was the first reporter for the Daily Caller, kind of on the ground seeing and stuff, I would then report it back to the group. I said, hey guys, we're gonna have to change up the tactics. Like we can't go in there like, like just filming and just thinking people are going to talk to us. I said we basically developed kind of like a rule book. So the first thing we did is we agreed that we would dress in all black. So just like the protesters. So we would dress all black. We noticed that the protesters would wear all black with no logos. So we make sure that we would dress all black, no logos. We started to buy body cams. The other thing too was we wanted to disguise ourselves into the protest. So we made a rule that our first hour on the ground, no filming your first hour. You're just involved. So like if the protesters are doing the all cops are bastards, all cops are bastards, we're in there with, black bandanas, all cops are bastards, all cops are bastards. And then like people will talk to you, be like, hey man, where you from? Oh, I'm from California, man. Like F these cops, bro. Like we're gonna burn the system down, burn these pigs, like George Floyd. And people are like, all right, yeah. So then
every keyword, hit them all.
So we would start to do that, and then Richie's the one that came up with the because I remember we were in Chaz, and then so we were getting ready, right? We're putting the all black clothing on, all the disguises. Richie goes, hey, let's go. He's like, I have an idea. Let's go to the liquor store. I'm like, why? He's like, let's just carry around a 30-pack of White Claws and cigarettes and joints and just basically be acting like them. He's like, by doing that, they'll let their guard down. They'll never think we're reporters. And I'm like, wait, what? I was like, yeah. He's like, trust me, it'll work like magic.
Cigarettes from White Claws.
And then yeah, I'm an intern, bro. So if I'm over here like, well, if my boss is telling me to get a little drunk on the job, I'm not gonna like not do it. So like we would go with these groups and just be like, man, F cops smashing White Claws. Hey, you guys want one? Yeah. Here's a White Claw, bro. Yo,
here's
you guys want some
Marlboro
cigs? Yeah. Yo, and then Richie, would have like a joint in his ear. Yo, you want a joint? And then these guys would all bring their guard down, bro. Then we would be getting all crazy info. We would be able to film when like we couldn't.
Now,
and
how
then,
would you do that? How would you commence the filming? Because now it's like,
From the
wait,
hip.
hold it right there.
Yeah, we would call it from the hip. So we do the shooting from the hip.
And they don't see that?
No. And the thing is, a lot of times, like once you bring the guard down, they're kind of like they'll just like kind of let you by with a lot of stuff.
Wait, let me see your phone real quick. So you're like this, like and they're not noticing.
No.
Just like this.
Because after that, bro, their guard's down. Like, and the thing is, we're technically getting drunk with them. You know, like we're drinking with them, we're smoking with them.
Which means you're probably shaking it a little
yeah,
bit.
Yeah.
Too.
So they're not worried, or like if something crazy with the cop is happening, we act like we're filming the cops and not them. Like, oh, get this cop on camera, man. Get this cop on camera. What's your badge number? You know, act like we're gonna, like report them. So we developed these tactics early. So we were the first reporter group out of all these media companies to do that, and then we were the first ones to cover the riots from the real angle. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Like now it's 4 or 5 years later, it's safe to say like, oh, BLM, they burned building now. It's like, yeah, it's safe to say it now. It wasn't safe to say it when we did it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So we were the first reporters that, and then because basically we're like as an intern, I'm learning quick of like how things are working. So it's like we were the first reporters to develop this, and then also how to beat the mainstream. So one thing we had to rely on was great video, straight to Twitter. Great video, straight to Twitter. So anytime we would get, burning buildings or business owners assaulted that happened in Seattle, we filmed a lot of that.
Gotta get it before.
We got it to video, and then we started to change. I want to say change, but we played a narrative into how Black Lives Matter protests were being viewed early on. Like at that time, they had all the media apparatus. I remember CNN was sending the reporter, and the CNN guy would do the hits of like
mostly peaceful protests.
He like
in
would
front
come
of
up,
a burning fucking building. That's what I'm saying. Like you didn't really have to beat them because like
they beat themselves.
The images
bro.
were beating themselves, bro.
So that was key, bro, because we played a huge role into another narrative of how BLM protesters were being viewed early on. And that started to shape the public's view of like, wait a minute, this is not what it was. And then the thing is, as a Hispanic, I'm always looking for like the Latino angle. And one thing that I noticed when I was in Atlanta or Seattle is like, it'd be like Latino business owners who'd be like, hey man, I'm from Mexico. I've saved up like 15 years and I opened up my own bakery, me and my son. Why did they burn my building down? I don't even care for this. And then so we started sharing those stories, and little by little, dude, we started to combat the mainstream apparatus. Because I remember watching mainstream coverage is MSNBC and CNN on purpose. What they'll do is they'll send a guy in the daytime. So at 2 p.m. when it's the peaceful chants, the guy would come out there and shoot his live shot real quick. Hey guys, everything's fine. There's nothing wrong here. And then by 3:30,
the camera goes off. He's like, get the fuck out.
And then by 3:30, he's already at the Marriott. He's already sipping, he's sipping cocktails.
Yeah.
While we were out there like showing that. So early on, man, the riot reporting kind of played a huge role into what I was called like the narrative shifting in these kind of major subjects that were happening in our country. But I mean, the country was torn. It was headed in this weird way, and
well, you were in Chaz was insane. Like that was as you described, it was the autonomous zone created in Seattle at the time with no cops. What could possibly go wrong? And so you're in the middle of that, and it's funny some of it listening to you talk about just shouting every keyword at a protest to sound like you're in the group. I actually had a friend who was not a journalist and just did that for fun to see what it would be like. And he said, dude, it's so easy. you just say keywords and they're like, yeah.
You have to say like comrade, like, hey, what's going on, comrade? And I'm like, oh, that was a new one.
So anyway.
I'm a big bro guy. Like I say bro all the time. Then I had to switch it up like comrade, say comrade.
That's
like, comrade.
So I guess my question is like, obviously you are getting a lot of people on video who are not the best and brightest that this country has to offer, for sure. And you're getting some people who are genuinely there to, I guess they got bored on their couch from the pandemic and want to feel like they're a part of something. Also for sure. But did you also come across some of the people that you either blatantly caught them in a lie that was the tell, or in some way were able to determine that they were quite literally some sort of like dark organization paid crisis like actor, creator kind of thing? So
one thing that we noticed early on, and maybe because of the COVID payments might have played a role, but one thing that we noticed early on, man, is like, let's say we'll be in a riot in Atlanta, let's say the next week we had to be in Seattle, then maybe the next week we're in Portland.
Same people.
We would see some of the same groups.
Ooh.
And then, so we don't know, so that's, there could be, one of the reasons could be at that time, bro, everyone was getting paid to sit at home, whatever. So we start to see what we call the traveling rioters, or if you want, whatever, chaos characters. But every protest or riot, man, started having the same trend where like in the daytime was normal, like chants, walking on the street, whatever. And then when that sun would come down, little by little, it would start to turn, and it turns into the madness that it is. If you guys remember during 2020, Portland went over for 100 days. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Portland what?
Portland rioted for over 100 days.
Yeah.
It would be like day 70, and they, and
that's where my buddy went undercover.
Okay, yeah.
Just for fun, no cameras.
I don't know if this would be up on the internet, bro, but this is just like a funny thing. But like, you would love my former boss, dude, Richard McGinnis. He's like just a character. But we would be in front of the Portland federal courthouse, right? It was a rioting. They do it for 100 nights. But the thing is, all these like nonprofits and GoFundMes were sending these guys money. So they had like in the park, they kind of had like a station set up. So like they have a bunch of shields and like weapons for like people to grab, and then they also had a kitchen, and the kitchen they would make they call them like riot hot dogs. They call them riot dogs, but the thing is that they taste bad because like every 5 to 10 minutes, Portland PD would come out and then shoot like gas or whatever, and like all that stuff would just fall on the hot dogs. And my boss dude would like film vlogs of like, hey dude, I'm gonna go eat a riot doggy, and then he would go get like this like hot dog with like gas canister, every fucking thing, riot munitions, and just like eat it on camera, and just like all types of stuff, dude. And but dude, yeah, it was crazy for the day. Like, during that time, bro, it was me, and then my boss, who was Richard McGinnis, and then our female coworker, who was Shelby Telcott. I think her and only one other female, Savannah Hernandez, were the two females that covered the riots the whole time. But it was us three for the Daily Caller. All of a sudden, man, it was like, you guys are gonna be like we're just gonna send you guys into the mayhem with no security, no nothing. And little by little, dude, we played this massive role that see, that's some of our coverage. Just a
56 night.
Night 56.
Oh my God. Yeah, this was just, man, this feels like decades ago, but this was not long ago.
Dude, it feels, yeah. And then, it's just like, I remember all this stuff. I mean, just like the riots, the shields. This is my camera. I filmed this one of this guy. He ends up getting assaulted. They had to put up, obviously, all the gates. But that went over, people forget, that went over 100 days. That cost the city. So many small businesses closed because of how long the riots went there.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of them burned down.
And so we had one night, I forgot the guy's last name. I know the suspect's last name is Love. But we had one night, and it was down the street from this, where there was a Trump supporter guy. He was getting beat up, assaulted by a group of Black Lives Matter supporters. It was getting really bad. And then the guy makes it into his truck.
Oh, I remember that.
And then we followed the truck because he was driving wobbly, and the group kept following him.
Yep.
And he ends up, you've seen it, right? He crashes into the tree. They then drag him out, and then they do that nasty kick to the face.
Kick on the face.
So we filmed that.
Oh, that was you.
That was me. So I filmed that, and then as soon as I filmed that, one of the protesters goes, if you're filming this or whatever, we're gonna come get you. And I remember I was standing with another reporter who was my friend. He was also documented too. His name was Kalen. He was with Scriber News at the time. And I look at Kalen. I go, dude, I'm out of here. He's like, we left, and then we ended up uploading that. The guys ended up getting arrested and serving time.
Yeah, we can't show that, Alessi.
Yeah.
We cannot show that on here. What? It'll get demonetized. We cannot show that.
Yeah, don't show that. It's not important.
They fucking soccer punt his head.
So that goes on for 100 days, bro. We're covering it, and you guys, just the context here. I'm an intern, so this is like I'm learning everything. But it's like all of our stories now, dude, at this point are making it to Fox News National. So we're getting national headlines. We're changing the narrative of how people view the because everyone still thinks it's peaceful, and then
everyone.
So obviously this is going on all summer. I'm traveling around. I'm doing I'm really all I'm doing is being a riot reporter. So just to kind of break it down, what a riot reporter is, guys, it's just you're carrying a bunch of supplies, helmets, you have a gas mask, you have a bulletproof vest, you have a backpack with your supplies, and you're basically every riot or protest you're covering, you're trekking at least around, I would say 10 to 13 miles per day because of the riots. There's no Ubers, so you're trekking all over the city. You're documenting. You obviously have portable batteries. You're trekking. You're not eating either because of the riots. All the stores are closed, so you're basically dependent on vending machines. So like vending machine is where you're getting dinner.
Huh, nice.
So that was kind of like the lifestyle we were living at that time. And then eventually, then there was that one night where I forgot. I think it was like in August, where I'm on Twitter, and the riots reach a little town that we never heard of called Kenosha. So the first night, Kenosha burns bad. It got crazy. And I had two reporter friends who were in Chicago drinking, and then Kenosha broke out, and they went straight from the bar because I think Kenosha is about an hour from Chicago. Mm-hmm. They went over to Kenosha and covered it. So I'm watching their coverage.
This was Rittenhouse, right?
Rittenhouse. So I call Richie McGinnis, who's my boss. I said, "Hey, Rich, get on Twitter. Look at Kenosha. It's going. The word that we always say, it's popping. It's popping. It's popping. Like we should book flights. First flight from DC to Kenosha." Richie checks it out, approves. Yep. You, me, Shelby. Let's get down there. So then we take the flight. We get to Kenosha on day 2. And on day 2, they shut down the city at that time because obviously it's already been one night of rioting. And so on day 2, they shut down the city. So just finding a hotel was a challenge. Finding like even a restaurant to eat before going out that night was a challenge. But whatever, we figured it out. Check in the hotel, we get ready. Right, I got my black hoodie, I got my bulletproof vest under, I got my helmet, gas mask, the ordeal. Richie's packed up, Shelby's packed up, and now we're out for night 2. Night 2 is crazy. Like they're burning down a whole like they've used car lot sales, all the crazy stuff. Like so we're filming all that, crazy stuff. All the action. And then so then we get ready. Now it's night 3. So we get out for night 3 of these riots in Kenosha. Now night 3 is when the Rittenhouse crew came because that crew that I've been watching the news for 2 nights now. That's when Rittenhouse comes down and wants to serve as like a medic. And then I don't know if we could even find this like Richie McGinnis interview with Rittenhouse or like McGinnis or Daily Caller Rittenhouse. But about 2 to 3 hours before the shooting, Richie gets a one-on-one interview with Rittenhouse because what catches and what catches Richie's eye is that Rittenhouse is like this 17-year-old kid. He has like medic stuff. He's armed. Yeah. So Richie's like, "You gonna help people?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm like a lifeguard or whatever." So they do this interview because for Richie's always good at like catching little odd things like that. And he was just caught that like this 17-year-old, as of right now, doesn't take any political sides, wants to be there for his community or
Says that FYI.
I think we should be fine, bro, because it's not gonna show. It's just gonna be an interview.
Don't put it on the screen yet. Let's just see what it is. Yeah. Okay, but
so that's the one-on-one interview that McGinnis gets with Rittenhouse. This is night of shooting. So this is night of shooting, and obviously we don't know what's gonna unfold.
Oh, I've seen this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So Richie does an interview with them. Normal interview. We don't think. Pause.
Now get it off. Yeah.
So
make sure that's not on there on the post edit. Sorry.
So finishes the interview. Then that night, obviously it's another night of chaos. It's riots. It's burning buildings. It's chaotic. But there was more, I would say, gunfire because before the Rittenhouse shooting, there was actually shots fired before, and I remember this because we heard the shots, and it was you guys. I'm trying to put it in the viewer's mind. You gotta remember, guys. We're in Kenosha. It's a small town in the middle of the night. It's like 1 a.m. and the whole town is in chaos. So even if you just hear some gunshots, it sounds like a war zone. It sounds like the whole city's being shot at. So there was gunshots before Rittenhouse, so it sounded already crazy, and So the night goes on, and then I'm about 2 or 3 blocks away from Rittenhouse shooting. So when the shooting occurs, I'm 3 blocks away. I don't know what's going on. I just hear shots, and people started running towards me, and then they started screaming, "Get into a hotel! Get into a hotel!" People are doing drive-bys, like whatever. And I'm like, "What?" So I run into a hotel because it's chaotic. The whole town's crazy. People are running all over the place. People are telling me like stuff that's not even true. People are saying that people are in SUVs shooting at. I don't know what's going on. So I get back to the hotel. And what I don't know is that my boss, Richie McGinnis, and I find out this later, but during this time I'm in the room, I didn't know this, but Richie McGinnis is right there at our car source, and he's right in front of the guy named Rosenbaum. So Rosenbaum, if you guys remember, when Rittenhouse shoots, Rosenbaum gets shot in the head. Mm-hmm. So my boss, Richie's in front of Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum, if I remember the story correctly from Richie, is Rosenbaum gets shot in the head, he drops. Richie's mind goes to fight or flight. So he takes off his shirt, wraps it around this guy's head who's bleeding, and then picks him up. And then Richie runs to the middle of the street. And then this is where like a random pickup truck comes. And then they get Rosenbaum and Richie get in the back of this pickup truck. And then this is what I found out when Richie testified in court a year later. That Richie looks over to Rosenbaum and this guy's breathing weird, that Richie looks at him and says, "Hey man, like you're gonna make it. We're gonna have a beer about this one day, and we'll laugh about this one day." So they get to Kenosha Hospital, and this is where Richie calls me. I don't know what's going on at this point because I'm still thinking like people are shooting at people. It's just it's chaos. So Richie calls me and explains what happened. Rittenhouse shot. I'm at the hospital, and he goes, "This is what's gonna happen, man. Is I'm not gonna talk to you for like 12 hours because the police are about to interview me about the shooting, and they're about to take away. They're gonna take my phone, to see if I got any video of the shooting." And then he goes, "I just looked in the mirror right now. His brain is on my shoulder." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Dude, my shirt's off. His brain is on my shoulder." He's like, "I gotta talk to you later, dude." And this was like at 1:32 2 in the morning, and we're like, "What the heck?" So the next day we wake up, and we haven't heard from Richie. And as you can imagine, the news is insane. Like, the Rittenhouse shooting was a massive deal, and then because of the Rittenhouse shooting, the riot stopped. Like it was after that, like they stopped in Kenosha. There was no more civil unrest. So the next morning we wake up, we're trying to get on the phone with Richie. We don't know what's going on with Richie. I find Shelby, make sure Shelby's okay. I find out that Shelby was like a little bit closer to the shooting than I was. And it was just like a crazy thing. And then we basically had to get flights to DC, and then we meet it with Richie later. And then Richie, after this, bro, was no longer the same human being. As you can imagine. Like, it was just already a lot was happening in our lives, bro, because we were like already in the forefront of like this chaotic turn in history. The riots, the amount of violence we kept seeing every night, the stuff that we endured just as like reporters. And then it just happened in this one moment. It was like so much. And then I could just tell, man, like looking at him, like he was just not the same, bro. Like he was some type of trauma like had endured. And then I remember like 2 weeks later there was another riot. And normally, man, as like riot reporters, we get hyped now because like we love this stuff. Like we get hyped, we're like, yeah, like book the tickets or like whatever. And I remember there was like another riot, and we had to like get in the car and like go get the helmet. And I remember Richie like comes down the stairs and he's like I'm not going. I'm like, why, dude? I'm like, there's another one. He's like, dude, he's like I'm done with this stuff, man. After like
PTS,
yeah. He's like you and Shelby go. He's like, I don't want to go. And then basically, bro, we went, and then like a year goes by, and then in this year, Richie's gonna come out with it actually soon. I'm thinking at the end of this year, but he's writing a book about all this stuff. But basically, a year goes by, and I don't, we don't think anything of it. Like we kind of all move on with our lives, and then you kind of forget that like there's gonna have to be a trial. So then trial comes, bro, and it was like this whole ordeal because the whole nation is on it. Every media company was covering it. And then at that time I was actually living with Richie in DC. I lived with him during my time at Daily Caller. So I lived with him. And then so I was with him when he got technically like subpoenaed or whatever, got like the court ordered that he had to testify. So he had to get with lawyers. There was this ordeal.
Gotta relive it.
Then we got the real moment. So then trial happened, dude. I remember like obviously Richie goes, and then during this time, like all Fox News, I think, was like wanted to really interview Richie, and Richie didn't want to do interviews with anyone, man. He's like, dude, I don't have nothing to gain. People were like looking to get all this clout off him, dude. He's like, I don't want any of that, And then like the trial happened, dude, and it was like, dude, all eyes. And then the way that it was set up, just because like I was there in Kenosha, and the way just everything has set up as a reporter, the evidence was true that like Rittenhouse did defend himself, whatever. But I just thought because of the media apparatus, because of the narrative, Rittenhouse is going to be found guilty.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.